My cousin accused me of sexual assault at a family BBQ. My parents believed her and called me a predator. But 4 months later, she confessed. She lied out of jealousy. And what I did left them speechless. I'm 28 years old. I work in digital marketing for a mid-sized company. And I need to tell this story because what happened a few months ago basically destroyed my family and almost destroyed me too. The thing is, I never thought something like this could happen to me. You know, those things you see on the news or in movies but never imagine will actually happen to you. But it did, and in the worst way possible. I guess I should start at the beginning, when we were still a normal family, or what I considered normal. I grew up in a pretty standard household, with my dad who worked in construction, my mom who was an elementary school teacher, and my brother Noah who's 3 years younger than me. We were always close to extended family, like those families that get together every long weekend to barbecue and celebrate birthdays with like 20 people. My Aunt Dorothy, my mom's sister, lived a few blocks from us, and her daughter Samantha was basically like another sister to me and Noah. We grew up together, went to the same school until high school, that kind of closeness. Samantha was always kind of dramatic, to be honest. Since she was little, she had this tendency to make everything bigger than it was. You know, if she fell down, it was the worst fall in the world. If someone said something slightly mean to her, she'd cry like she'd been horribly insulted. But we were family and you accept those things, right? Plus, she was fun when she was in a good mood, always organizing things, always with some plan. At that time, she was like 26 years old, worked in sales for a telecommunications company, and we saw her often at family gatherings. I'd been dating my girlfriend Haley for 2 years by then, and things were going really well. Haley's a nurse, works the night shift at a hospital, and she's literally the most patient and understanding person I've ever met. My parents adored her. Noah considered her his sister-in-law even though we weren't married yet, and she got along, well, with my whole family. We lived together in a not too big but comfortable apartment, had our routines. I worked from home like 3 days a week. She did her crazy shifts at the hospital, but it worked. The day everything went to hell was a Saturday in July, about 6 or 7 months ago now. My parents had organized one of those typical family barbecues, you know, in their backyard that has this big yard where my dad had built like a really well-equipped grill area. The whole family was going to be there, my uncles and aunts, my cousins, Aunt Dorothy and Samantha, basically the whole group. Haley had a shift that day, so I was going alone, which wasn't weird. Sometimes our schedules just didn't match up. I got there around 2 in the afternoon. The barbecue was already going. My dad with his ridiculous apron that said, King of the Grill, that we'd given him as a joke years ago. My mom inside making salads with my Aunt Dorothy, cousins running around everywhere, everything. Completely normal. Samantha was there with her boyfriend at the time, some guy named Mike or Mark. I don't remember well because her relationships never lasted long, and she seemed to be in a good mood, drinking beer, laughing, participating in conversations. I stayed for like 4 hours, ate, chatted with my cousins, played soccer in the yard for a while with Noah and some of the younger ones, had a few beers, but nothing excessive because I had to drive back. Samantha and I exchanged like 2 words total during the whole afternoon, like, hi, how are you? And, pass me a napkin, nothing more, 0 significant interaction. I left around 6 in the evening because Haley was getting off at the hospital at 7 and I wanted to pick her up. I got home, changed, went to get Haley, we came back, ate something light because she was tired after her shift, and we stayed up watching a series on Netflix until she fell asleep on the couch. I stayed up a while longer checking some work stuff on my laptop. Everything normal. Literally one of those ordinary days that has nothing special about it. Around 11 at night, my phone rings. It was Samantha, which was already weird because she never called me directly. If anything, we communicated through messages in the family group or at gatherings. I answered, thinking maybe she'd forgotten something at my parents' house or something like that. I don't know. Anything but what happened. Samantha was crying, like sobbing in an almost hysterical way. And between sobs, she's telling me, how could I do that to her? That she trusted me. That we were family. Me completely confused, obviously, trying to understand what the hell was happening. I was asking her what she was talking about, what had happened, if she was okay. And then she drops the bomb. She accuses me of touching her inappropriately at the barbecue. Says that when we were in the kitchen looking for more ice, I had cornered her and groped her. and that she was in shock and didn't know how to react in the moment, but now she realized how serious it had been. I swear I felt like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water on me. My brain literally wasn't processing what I was hearing. I didn't even remember being alone with her at any point, much less in the kitchen, and I definitely had never touched her in any way that wasn't a normal greeting or goodbye hug like you do with any family member. I told her she was completely wrong, that never happened, that we hadn't even been alone at any point. But she kept crying and yelling that I was a liar. How dare I deny her experience? All those phrases that sound like they're taken from Twitter. I hung up the phone because honestly I couldn't keep listening to that. I felt sick to my stomach. I woke up Haley and told her what had just happened. She knows me, obviously, and believed me immediately. Told me Samantha was clearly confused or making things up. Not to worry because the truth would come to light. I believe her, but I had this horrible feeling in my chest, like when you know something bad is about to happen, but you can't do anything to stop it. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, going over every moment of the barbecue in my head, trying to remember if there had been any interaction with Samantha that she could have misinterpreted. Nothing. Literally nothing. I had been outside with everyone else most of the time. The few times I went into the house, it was to go to the bathroom or get more drinks, and there were always more people around. The next morning, Sunday around 8, my phone started exploding. I had like 30 unread messages in the family chat. Samantha had written there, in the group where my parents, Noah, Aunt Dorothy, my other uncles and aunts and cousins were, basically the whole family. She had put this long emotional message saying she needed to share something very difficult, that I had sexually assaulted her at the barbecue, that she felt violated and betrayed, that she didn't know if she should go to the police, but she needed the family's support in this very difficult moment for her. You know that feeling when you read something so absurd that your brain refuses to accept it as real? That's how I felt. I read that message like 5 times, trying to process it. And what came next was worse. Responses started coming in the chat. My Aunt Dorothy wrote that she was devastated, but believed her daughter, and that I should be ashamed. Some cousins, I barely knew, started writing supportive messages for Samantha. And then, and this was what really destroyed me, my own mother wrote that she was in shock but that they needed to talk to me immediately. I wrote in the chat saying that was completely false, that none of that had happened, that Samantha was lying or confused, but my messages were basically ignored. My dad called me and told me in this super serious voice that I needed to come to their house right away, that we needed to talk about this as a family. I went, obviously, because I thought I could explain to them face to face that this was all crazy. When I got to my parents' house, my mom was crying in the living room. My dad had this expression I'd never seen on him, like disappointment and anger mixed together. And Noah was there too, sitting in silence. I sat down and tried to explain to them exactly what I'm telling you now, that I hadn't done anything, that I hadn't even been alone with Samantha, that we could review every moment of the barbecue. My dad listened to me, but I could see in his face that he had doubts, and that broke my heart. My mom asked why Samantha would make something like that up. What would she gain from lying? And I had no answer because honestly I didn't know. I had no idea why she was doing this. Noah was the only one who stayed kind of neutral, said he didn't know what to believe but that maybe it had been a misunderstanding. But even he, my own brother, didn't say directly that he believed me. But when I left that house, I felt like I had just lost my family. Haley was waiting for me in the car because I had asked her to come with me, and when she saw my face, she knew it had been bad. The next few days were a nightmare. The family chat kept going with supportive messages for Samantha, people asking if she was okay, if she needed anything. I didn't even respond anymore. My Aunt Dorothy sent me a private message saying I was a pervert and I better stay away from her daughter or she'd call the police. Some cousins blocked me on social media. It was like watching your life disintegrate in slow motion and not being able to do anything to stop it. My mom called me every 2 days at first, trying to have these awkward conversations where she basically interrogated me, asking if I had been drinking too much, if maybe I had done something without realizing it, if I could understand why Samantha felt that way. Each call was more frustrating than the last because I realized she didn't completely believe me. She had those doubts. and for someone whose mother had always been their biggest defender, that was like a knife in the chest. My dad stopped talking to me directly. When I tried to call him, he wouldn't answer. If I texted him, his responses were 1 or 2 words. Noah told me in a message that Dad was very confused and didn't know what to think, that he needed time. Time for what? I don't know. To decide if his own son was an abuser or not, I guess. I made the decision, after like 2 weeks of all this, to just cut contact. I couldn't keep living in this limbo where my own family saw me as a possible criminal. I told Haley we needed to focus on us, on our life together, and let my family come to their own conclusions. I left all the family WhatsApp groups, blocked several cousins who kept sending indirect messages on social media, basically isolated myself completely. It was hard. I'm not going to lie. There were days where I felt completely empty, like a part of me had been ripped out. Thanksgiving that year was particularly horrible. Haley and I spent it alone in our apartment eating Chinese food because I absolutely refused to go to any family gathering. And she obviously wasn't going to leave me alone. Christmas was similar. My mom called me on Christmas Eve crying, saying the family wasn't the same without me. But when I asked her directly if she believed me, there was this awkward silence, and I knew the answer was no. Or at least, not completely. But the thing is, life goes on, right? I kept working. Even got a promotion at the company like 3 months after all the drama. Haley and I became closer. If that was possible, she literally was my rock during all this. I joined a gym because I needed to do something with all the anger and frustration I felt, and it ended up being really good for me. I lost like 15 pounds and got in the best shape of my life. I reconnected with college friends I hadn't been seeing as much, started building this new life without my biological family, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like 4 months passed, maybe 5, and I was already in a place where I wasn't thinking about the family drama every day. It still hurt, obviously, but it was a dull pain instead of that sharp agony from the beginning. I was learning to live with it. And then, one Tuesday night in February, I get a Facebook message from Samantha. I didn't see it right away because I almost never checked Facebook, but when I opened it a few days later, it was this long message where she basically admitted she had lied about everything. She said she was going through a very difficult time back then, that her boyfriend had left her right before the barbecue, that she had been drinking more than she should have, that she saw that everyone was paying more attention to me than to her that day and she felt invisible, and that for some twisted reason in her head she decided to make up this story to get attention and sympathy. She said she was so sorry, that she had ruined my life, that she understood if I never forgave her, that she had been living with the guilt all these months and finally needed to tell the truth. She ended the message asking if we could talk on the phone so she could apologize properly. I read that message and I didn't feel relief, or joy, or even satisfaction. What I felt was anger, pure boiling anger. This person had destroyed my relationship with my family, had made me spend months feeling like a pariah, had planted doubts about me in the minds of the people I loved most, and now she wanted us to talk on the phone so she could feel better about her guilt. I didn't respond to her. I blocked her on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere. But obviously, she took a screenshot of the message. Before I blocked her, and sent it to other family members. My cousin Grant, who had always been cool and was one of the few who hadn't blocked me, though he also hadn't publicly taken my side, called me to tell me that Samantha had confessed everything and the family was in chaos. Apparently, my Aunt Dorothy was devastated. My parents were horrified at how they had handled the situation. Noah felt terrible for not defending me more. Calls and messages started coming in. My mom was first, crying so hard she could barely speak, apologizing over and over, saying she had been the worst mother in the world for doubting me. How could I forgive her? Noah wrote me this really long message explaining that he always wanted to believe me, but the family pressure was very strong, that he should have been braver, that he'd understand if I never wanted to talk to him again, but please consider giving him another chance. My dad left me like 5 voicemails, his voice breaking in all of them, saying he was sorry, that he had failed as a father, that he never should have doubted me. Grant kept me updated because, honestly, I didn't want to talk directly with almost anyone yet. He told me that Samantha had lost her job a few weeks before confessing, not related to this drama, but because apparently she'd been having performance and attitude problems. Her mom, my Aunt Dorothy, kicked her out of the house after finding out the truth, told her she couldn't keep supporting someone capable of doing something so cruel. The new boyfriend Samantha had at the time also left her when he found out what she'd done. Basically, her life fell apart, and part of me felt it was karma, but another part just felt empty seeing all that. I decided, after thinking about it a lot and talking about it with Haley, that I was going to give some family members a chance, but on my terms. I told my mom we could start talking again, but it was going to take time to rebuild trust. That I couldn't just act like nothing had happened. She understood, or at least said she understood. Noah came to our apartment and we had a long conversation where he basically apologized for, like 2 hours straight. And I eventually told him I forgave him, but I needed him to defend me in the future. That being neutral in these situations wasn't really neutral. My dad was harder. He and I met for coffee like a month after all this, and it was super awkward. He didn't know what to say beyond apologizing, and I didn't really know what to tell him either. The relationship there is still broken, honestly. We're rebuilding, but it's slow and painful. With Samantha, zero contact, and that's how it's going to stay. My Aunt Dorothy wrote me, apologizing for how she treated me, saying she was also a victim of her daughter's lies, and I responded something polite but distant. I can't just forget that she called me a pervert and threatened me with the police. What happened with Samantha after, according to Grant, is that basically no one in the family wants anything to do with her. Even her siblings, my other cousins, have shut her out. She's living I don't know where. I think with some friend, working at some call center or something. Grant says she tries to communicate with family members often, but most ignore her. It's sad in a way, but also, I don't know. I feel like she created this situation. Now, like 7 months after her confession, I'm in a weird place. I see my mom every 2 weeks or so. Noah, a bit more often. My dad, once a month if that. Big family gatherings don't happen anymore. The whole family dynamic changed. Some cousins who blocked me sent me friend requests again on social media, but I haven't accepted them. I don't feel like I need that in my life. Haley and I got engaged like a month ago, which is something positive that came out of all this in a way, because this whole experience made us realize how solid we are as a couple. She never, not for a second, doubted me, and that means everything. I still go to the gym religiously. The friends I reconnected with during my family isolation period became an important part of my life. I have this new circle that isn't contaminated by all the family drama. In some ways, my life is better now than before all this, even though it sounds weird to say it. Did I forgive my family? I'm working on it. Some days it's easier than others. There are times when I see old photos of when we were a happy family, and my chest hurts, thinking that we'll probably never be like that again. But there are also days when I think maybe it's better this way, that this smaller, more honest version of family is healthier anyway. Last week, my mom asked me if I'd go to her birthday next month. I told her maybe, that I'd think about it. A year ago, I would have been excited about her birthday, would have helped organize the party, would have invited everyone. Now it's a maybe, and that says a lot about how things have changed. Grant told me a few days ago that Samantha is apparently going to therapy, trying to work on her issues, which I guess is good for her. Doesn't mean I ever want to see or talk to her. Some things just can't be fixed. With an apology and some therapy, what I do know is that I'm never going to forget how it felt to have my own family doubt me. How it felt to see those doubts in my mother's eyes, my father's silence, my brother's neutrality. That changes something fundamental in you, makes you see people differently, even when you forgive them. I don't see them anymore. With those eyes of a son who believes his parents are infallible or that family will always be there no matter what. Now I know that family loyalty has limits, that even people who love you can fail you in devastating ways, and that sometimes rebuilding is harder than just starting over. Haley says that eventually the pain will diminish more, that someday I'll be able to think about this without feeling that tightness in my chest. I hope she's right. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, building this new life that in some ways I chose and in others was forced on me, and maybe that's enough.